My fiancée's bachelorette party livestream showed her lap dancing for random guys. She didn't know I was tagged in the video. I didn't call, just forwarded it to her very religious grandmother, who was paying for the wedding. The wedding got canceled within hours. 3 weeks. That was the timeline. 3 weeks until my carefully constructed future was supposed to click into place. Isaac, 29, was about to marry Vivian, 27, and it was going to be perfect. Mostly because it was going to be stable. Our apartment, the one where I sat that Saturday night, was a testament to my obsession with order. The light was soft, reflecting off the polished dark wood of the floor, and the only sound was the muted explosions from the tactical shooter I was playing with my best man, Ben, who was online. It was the kind of safe, predictable evening I craved. I had spent my life building a fortress against chaos, a fortress built on good credit, career stability, and the appearance of a deeply committed, respectable relationship. That stability was about to be cemented by a wedding that cost $85,000. The money came from Eleanor, Vivian's grandmother, a Southern Baptist matriarch who had raised Vivian after her parents' messy divorce. Eleanor was the ghost in the machine of our engagement. Her old money paid for everything. The venue, the catering, the whole 9 yards. Her condition was simple, brutal, and entirely non-negotiable. The wedding had to be held in a church, and we had to attend premarital counseling with her pastor. Whatever made Grandma happy, I had told Vivian. Whatever secured the perfect illusion. The truth was, after years of watching my own family crumble under financial strain and emotional volatility, I equated Eleanor's high expectations with reliable security. I held the silent, protective lie that control was safety. As long as I kept the external factors perfect, I thought, I could prevent pain. Vivian was thrilled by the grand scale of the event. I was grateful, but honestly, I would have preferred something smaller, less scrutinized. I told myself my relief was about the money, not the terrifying, exposed nature of a massive social commitment. Vivian had flown out Thursday with her maid of honor and a couple of bridesmaids for a long bachelorette weekend. She had texted me upon landing, sent a few photos of their initial dinners, and ended with a cheerful, "Love you. Talk tomorrow." Around 11 p.m. on Saturday, my phone vibrated, lighting up the corner of my eye. Instagram notification. I was tagged in a video by an account I didn't recognize. A local nightclub's promotional page. Ben, still connected to me in the headset, heard me stop mid-sentence. "What's up, man? You frozen?" he asked. I did not answer. The caption was a blur of hashtags and club cliches, but the video was crystal clear. It zoomed in on a VP table. The music was deafening, but the visuals were not. There was Vivian. She was wearing the exact same dress she had sent me a photo of earlier that evening. She was giving a lap dance to some random guy at the table. Full grinding, her body moving with practiced precision, her dress riding high. The guy had his hands on her hips, both laughing. Then, without missing a beat, she moved to the next guy. Same treatment. I watched as one of them slipped what looked like cash into her dress. She pocketed it and kept moving. My face must have gone white, because Ben called out, "Dude, you still there? What is it?" I took off my headset and showed him the phone without saying a word. Ben stared at the small screen for a solid minute, his expression moving from confusion to shock. That's definitely her," he finally whispered, his voice laced with dread. I watched the clip 10 times. Different guys, plural. Not a single drunken mistake. This was a performance, a transaction. The lie I had built my life on, The certainty, the respectability, shattered instantly, replaced by a cold, numbing clarity. The humiliation was not just mine, it was public, immortalized on a promotional feed. My old ghost, the fear of public betrayal, screamed in my head. My hand did not shake. I did not breathe deeply. I felt only a sterile, procedural calm. I did not call, did not text, did not try to explain or argue. There was nothing left to say to her. Instead, I took a screenshot of the video clip and forwarded it to the one person who needed to know the truth before it cost her $85,000. Grandmother, Eleanor. I added one single simple line of text, thinking of the flower payment that was due to be finalized the next day. I thought you should see this before you finalize the payment for the flowers tomorrow. Then, I turned off my phone, placed it face down on the nightstand, and went to bed. I had thrown the ultimate match into the fuel tank, and for the first time since the engagement, I knew I was safe. The absolute chaos I was meant to wake up to was still hours away. I woke up Sunday morning to a world on fire. The deliberate silence I had imposed the night before was violently broken by the insistent, frantic buzzing of my phone, which I had placed face down on the nightstand. The first thing I registered was the sheer volume of alerts. When I finally picked it up, the screen was a blinding cascade of notifications. 43 missed calls, 89 text messages. A string of panicked voicemails filling up my storage from every name in Vivian's close circle. Vivian herself, her maid of honor, her mother, and even her sister. I did not panic. I felt a strange, detached sense of vindication, almost like a scientist observing a predictable chemical reaction. My action, quiet and precise, had triggered the exact magnitude of consequence I had anticipated. The fortress of lies had been breached, not by an invading army, but by a well-aimed surgical strike. The text painted a clear, chronological picture of destruction. First the fury. Then the terror. Then the blame. Vivian's very first message, timestamp 2 a.m., cut through the noise. What did you do? It was not. I'm sorry. It was not. I can explain. It was immediate, aggressive self-defense. A question that positioned me as the aggressor, the destroyer, not the betrayed fiancée. It was a refusal to take ownership of the video she had starred in. That moment, seeing those 4 words, solidified everything. There was nothing left to salvage. The subsequent texts ranged from angry accusations that I had ruined her life, that I was toxic, to desperate pleas for me to somehow undo what I had done. But nowhere, not in the 89 messages, was the word sorry. I deleted them all, without replying, and called grandmother Eleanor. She answered on the second ring, her voice low and gravelly, stripped of the usual southern charm. It sounded like the voice of a judge delivering a final verdict. Isaac, she said. Eleanor. I am so sorry you had to see that, I said, my voice steady. Don't be sorry for me, son. I'm sorry for you, she countered. She confirmed that she had called Vivian at 2 in the morning, screaming. Then, systematically, she had spent the remaining early morning hours dismantling the entire wedding, piece by piece. She had called the venue, the caterer, the florist, the photographer. She had stopped the payments, canceled the contracts. I have spent the last 3 hours on the phone with every vendor we hired, she explained, her voice steel. The deposits. We have lost $40,000, mostly non-refundable. But I would rather lose $40,000 than watch you marry someone who doesn't respect marriage before it even starts. I felt a genuine rush of admiration for her integrity. That money, that security I craved, was built on a foundation of respect that Vivian had casually obliterated. I thanked her, sincerely, for her honesty and her moral clarity. She told me she had raised Vivian better, that this was a deep personal failing for her, and she apologized again for my pain. Meanwhile, the peripheral attacks continued. Vivian's mother called me a vindictive little man. Her maid of honor said I was cruel for not giving Vivian a chance to explain. Explain what? I had watched her grind on multiple strangers while guys stuffed money in her dress. What was the explanation for performing for cash 3 weeks before a wedding I was paying for? Temporary amnesia. My focus shifted to logistics, the practical anchor points of my life. The apartment lease was solely in my name, thankfully. The ring, which I had bought with my own money, was the next item of business. I contacted a jeweler about resale. They estimated I might get back about 60% of the purchase price. Not great, but far better than nothing. And the simple act of liquidating that symbol of the failed future was intensely therapeutic. The emotional storm raged externally, but inside my apartment, I was calm, methodically securing the perimeter. Vivian was now staying with her maid of honor, having been effectively locked out of her own family's financial world. Her only communication was anger, never regret. This fact was the final, non-negotiable proof that I had made the right choice. She was not hurt she lost me. She was furious she got caught and was facing the consequences. I knew the quiet would not last. I had secured the phone line and the lease, but the confrontation was coming, driven by her immediate, desperate need to regain control of the inheritance she had just lost. The war was over, but the messy, drawn-out battle for the wreckage was about to begin. The storm arrived on Tuesday, 5 days after the wedding was officially vaporized. I was working from home, entrenched in the quiet solitude of my apartment, feeling a fragile peace built on the debris of my former life. I had not yet changed the locks. It was on my to-do list. A low-priority chore I delayed in the exhaustion of the breakup. That oversight proved costly. Around 2 in the afternoon, the front door clicked, swung open, and Vivian walked in. She looked tired, dressed in leggings and an oversized hoodie, a stark contrast to the polished woman I was used to. But her posture was rigid, her expression tight, with a mixture of desperate resolve and pure, unfettered anger. It was the face of someone who believed they were utterly justified in their fury. "We need to talk," she announced, her voice strained. She shut the door with a loud thud, staking a claim on the space. I pushed my laptop away and stood up, placing the dining table between us. The sterile calm I had relied on since Saturday night intensified. "I disagree," I said simply. You don't get to just blow up my entire life and then ghost me." She spat, tossing her purse onto the couch. She sat down, sinking into the cushions, trying to revert the room to the setting of our relationship, where we would naturally sit down and work things out. I remained standing. "And you don't get to give lap dances to random dudes at your bachelorette party, and then act like I'm the bad guy for showing someone what you did." She rolled her eyes, a familiar dismissive gesture that always infuriated me. "It was my bachelorette party, Isaac. Do you know what those are for? The last night of freedom. Every bride does crazy stuff. Every bride lets strangers put cash in her dress." I asked, focusing on the detail that made it a transaction, not just a mistake. She waved her hand dismissively. "It was like $20 total. It was a joke. The guys were funny, they bought us champagne. I was just being friendly." "You were grinding on them, Vivian. It's called infidelity, when you are 3 weeks from marrying a man who believed you respected him." "It's called dancing? God, You're so uptight, she snapped. I stared at her then. This was the moment I realized I didn't know the person standing in front of me. The ease with which she normalized the public betrayal, the instant shift of blame, the genuine lack of any flicker of understanding regarding my perspective. It was alienating. This was the person I was prepared to vow my life to, and she truly saw nothing wrong with what she had done. I want you to leave, I stated, the command quiet and firm. No. Not until we work this out, she insisted. You embarrassed me in front of my grandmother, in front of my whole family. Do you know what they're saying about me? Probably that you were lap dancing for strangers 3 weeks before your wedding. I replied, the truth landing with the weight of a stone. This isn't funny, she yelled. I'm not laughing. The anger finally broke, replaced by the tears I had been expecting since Saturday. She buried her face in her hands, her shoulders shaking. I love you. I made one mistake. One. And you're throwing away 4 years. Because of it. It was the classic move, the emotional manipulation designed to pull me back to her side of the table, to pity, to the lie that she was the victim. But my control held. You're throwing away 4 years. I corrected her. I just showed a video to your grandmother. You could have come to me. We could have talked about it. But no, you went nuclear. And now she's cut me out of the will. The sudden change in her tone was instantaneous and startling. The sobs hitched, and she looked up, her eyes wide, glistening not with regret for my pain, but with pure, cold panic. There it was. The truth she couldn't hide. The real issue wasn't the broken relationship, but the lost inheritance. She didn't care that she had hurt me. She only cared that she had lost access to Eleanor's money. The last vestige of the illusion crumbled. I think you should go, I repeated. I stood up, walked around the table, and walked straight to the front door, opening it wide. The cold, afternoon air rushed into the apartment. She sat on the couch for another minute, waiting for me to falter, to apologize for being firm, or to close the door and embrace her. When I remained still, holding the door open, she finally grabbed her purse and scrambled up. She stormed past me, pausing only in the doorway to deliver one final, desperate insult. You're going to regret this, Isaac. You'll never find anyone like me. That's the hope, I replied, and gently closed the door. The sound of the lock clicking back into place felt like the final period on a very long sentence. The failed confrontation with Vivian marked the end of her personal attempts at manipulation. But it was just the beginning of the external pressure. Having failed to induce pity, she deployed her backup arsenal, her family and the legal system, both designed to leverage guilt and fear. On Thursday, 2 days after I forced Vivian out, her mother called. This conversation was somehow worse than dealing with Vivian herself. Vivian was fundamentally selfish. Her mother was actively malicious, operating under the assumption that I was a small, easily crushed adversary. You need to fix this, Isaac, she demanded, her voice high and accusatory, cutting straight through my professional day. Hello. Fix what? I asked, keeping my tone deliberately flat. My daughter is devastated. Her wedding is ruined. Her relationship with her grandmother is destroyed. And it's all because you couldn't handle a little harmless fun. The repetition of that phrase, harmless fun, was infuriating. It was their collective mantra, the party line they were reciting to excuse public degradation and deceit. Harmless fun, I repeated. Bachelorette parties are supposed to be wild. Right? What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Except it didn't. It ended up on the internet, tagged to my name, for my friends and family to see. That's not harmless, So your ego got bruised. She sneered. That's no reason to destroy a family. I almost laughed. I didn't destroy anything. I corrected her, keeping the frustration strictly internal. Your daughter made choices. I showed someone those choices. The consequences are entirely on her. She then resorted to the emotional heavy artillery. She's been crying for days. She can't eat. She can't sleep. Are you happy? Not particularly. I replied truthfully. I'm dealing with my own issues. Like finding out the woman I was going to marry would perform for strangers for cash. It wasn't like that. She insisted, a desperate note entering her voice. I watched the video multiple times. It was exactly like that. She hung up on me without another word, her only remaining weapon being the denial of further contact. The next day, Friday, the pressure escalated from emotional terrorism to legal harassment. I received a stiff, official-looking envelope via courier. It was a demand letter from a law firm representing Vivian. The document claimed she was entitled to reimbursement for various wedding expenses she had paid out of pocket, dress alterations, deposits for the bachelorette party flights, and minor vendor deposits I had allegedly promised to cover. The total demand was $8,400. It was a blatant fishing expedition, a desperate attempt to recoup some of her losses by intimidating me. The letter was formal and designed to induce panic in anyone unfamiliar with civil law. I immediately called my friend Chris, a corporate lawyer who had done favors for me before. He listened to the details and then just laughed for a solid 30 seconds. Ignore it, he advised, the amusement clear in his voice. She has no case. Wedding expenses are almost never legally recoverable when an engagement ends, especially when the engagement ended due to her own documented actions. This is just harassment. The confirmation that I was legally safe was a massive relief. I ignored the letter, just as Chris advised, choosing to prioritize my mental peace over engaging in pointless paperwork warfare. The last piece of outside pressure came on Saturday from the maid of honor, Kate. She texted me from a new number. I had blocked her old one days ago. You're seriously not going to talk to her? She's a mess. She made a mistake. People deserve forgiveness. I replied instantly, not with anger, but with finality. People also deserve to know who they're marrying before they marry them. Kate's next text dropped the pretense of empathy. She was drunk. She doesn't even remember half of it. That's not the defense you think it is, I countered. Her composure finally broke. You're being so cold. This isn't the person she is. Apparently, it is, I wrote back. You know what? You never deserved her anyway. She was settling. We all said it. That last text, intended as an insult, was a gift. It confirmed what I had subconsciously suspected, that I was seen as the means to an end, the reliable, boring foundation for the life she wanted. I smiled grimly. Cool, I replied. Sounds like I did her a favor then. I blocked that number too. The silence that followed was profound and immensely satisfying. I had successfully managed to secure the boundaries of my digital life. Now, I just needed to secure the physical ones. I spent that Sunday, a week after the video was sent, securing the boundaries of my physical life. I went to the hardware store, bought a high-security lock set, and called my landlord. The landlord, hearing the brief explanation about a canceled wedding and a former fiancée who still possessed a key, was surprisingly understanding. It cost me $150, but the price was negligible compared to the value of the peace of mind it bought. That evening, I methodically replaced the locks, the final, mechanical severance of our lives. The moment the last screw was tightened, the last tumblers clicked into the new position, I felt an immense, quiet wave of relief wash over me. I had secured the perimeter. The first few nights following the breakup had been rough. I'd wake up, reaching instinctively across the bed for the familiar warmth that wasn't there, confronting the sudden, gaping hole in my routine. But by day 4 or 5, that painful emptiness began to be replaced by something unexpected lightness. The exhaustion of upholding the illusion was greater than the pain of losing the reality. With the emotional static gone, I started to replay the past 4 years with startling clarity. I wasn't just observing the video anymore. I was observing her behavior through a new lens. All the little inconsistencies I had dismissed, the ones I had swallowed to maintain my rigid control, now came rushing back, confirming my deepest, previously suppressed paranoia. The times she would get strangely defensive about her phone, pulling it away mid-scroll. The nights she came home late from work events, smelling faintly of alcohol and expensive perfume that wasn't mine. The way she would flirt aggressively with bartenders or waiters, always calling it being friendly when I questioned it. I had convinced myself I was being paranoid, protecting my vulnerable childhood ghost of betrayal. I had believed the lie that if I just kept everything ordered, I could maintain control. Now, I understood I hadn't been paranoid at all. I had been observant, and I had simply chosen to ignore the facts in favor of the convenient narrative. The money from the ring resale finally came through. A lump sum that covered the various deposits I had personally paid for the wedding, which were also non-refundable. It was a clean financial break, minimizing my personal loss and reinforcing the pragmatic success of my decisive, cold action. Late that evening, a text arrived from an unknown number. I almost blocked it, but something about the format felt different. It was from Sarah, Vivian's cousin, who had been on the Bachelorette trip. "Isaac, I feel terrible," the text began. "I should have called you that night. I almost did." I paused. This was the first genuine apology I had received from anyone in Vivian's circle. "Why did not you?" I typed back. Honestly, I was scared of the blowback. She gets really mean when people call her out. I know that's not an excuse. It wasn't an excuse, but I appreciated the honesty. I found out from Sarah that the maid of honor had been the one actively encouraging the behavior, filming it, and laughing about it. Sarah admitted she had tried to pull Vivian away, but was shut down aggressively. Then, Sarah told me something that stung more than the video itself. Apparently, Vivian had been bragging to the entire group that the wedding was basically free, because Grandma was paying for everything. She had told them that once they were married, she'd have it made because I had a solid career and she could coast. Learning I was viewed as a financial plan more than a partner, a secured investment for her comfort, was a profound, final humiliation. The video had shown disrespect, the bragging showed contempt. It confirmed her lack of value for me, our life, and our future. That Sunday night, sitting alone in my silent, newly secured apartment, I didn't feel sad or angry. I felt an overwhelming, undeniable, powerful surge of relief. I had dodged a bullet that would have ruined not just a weekend, but a lifetime. The internal fear was gone, replaced by the profound certainty that I had chosen integrity over convenience. The week that followed, the new locks and the cousin's confession marked the shift from personal conflict to systemic consequence. The legal harassment stopped first. My lawyer friend, Chris, sent a formal, 3-paragraph response to Vivian's demand letter. It was brief, The rest of the house slept, and pointed out the lack of legal standing for recovering engagement expenses due to her documented conduct. He charged her attorney for the stamp, a small, satisfying detail that confirmed the end of the official dispute. But the most profound consequences were still unfolding, driven not by my action, but by the sheer, self-inflicted gravity of Vivian's own choices. Last week, Grandmother Eleanor called me again. Our conversation lasted almost an hour, a quiet, serious exchange that felt less like a breakup fallout and more like a final accounting. Eleanor apologized again, expressing deep regret for the pain I was enduring. She confessed that she had been watching Vivian's pattern of entitlement and superficiality for years, always hoping her granddaughter would grow out of it. The video, she said, was simply the final, irrefutable evidence that her hopes were misplaced. "I gave that girl everything, Isaac," she said, her voice weighted with exhaustion, not anger. "Paid for college, her car, her apartment for years. And she has never once shown gratitude, only entitlement. I can't abide that." Then she told me something I didn't ask for, something that chilled and validated me simultaneously. She had formally rewritten her will. Vivian was entirely cut out. The primary beneficiary of her substantial estate was now the cousin, Sarah, the one who had tried to intervene at the party, and later reached out to me. Eleanor wanted me to know that there were real, profound consequences for Vivian's actions, consequences that went far beyond the canceled wedding. The financial foundation Vivian had betrayed me for, the very thing she valued above our relationship, had been systematically removed by the person who had once been her lifeline. It was a staggering moment. I had dodged the bullet of the wedding, but Vivian had flown directly into the path of an iceberg she hadn't known was there. The consequences continued to multiply, growing like a ripple effect across the internet. Someone at the nightclub, likely a patron or an employee who recognized her, had posted the video clip to Twitter. It went what people called mildly viral, categorized under the familiar, cringe-worthy tag of Bachelorette, party gone wrong. The exposure quickly became professional poison. Vivian worked in pharmaceutical sales, a field built entirely on trust, appearance, and the confidence of medical clients. The video showing her grinding for cash in a cheap club didn't exactly scream, "Trust me with your medical decisions." One of her co-workers, recognizing her from our joint social media accounts, which I had thankfully made private days ago, sent the clip to her manager. She was not outright fired, which surprised me, but the damage was terminal. She was transitioned immediately to an inside sales role. No more client visits, no more travel, and a significant pay cut that stripped away the glamour and the easy money she had relied upon. The true nature of her circle was revealed through the fallout. The maid of honor, desperate to deflect blame from Vivian, and likely from herself for encouraging it, texted me again from yet another new number. She blamed me for leaking the video to Twitter. I didn't leak anything. I texted back, for the final time. The club posted it publicly. The internet did what the internet does. I forwarded it to one person. Everything else is the organic consequence of her own choices. I blocked the number instantly. Her refusal to acknowledge the true cause, Vivian's original lack of integrity, was the ultimate proof that I was right to walk away. This entire circle lived in a fog of external blame. I felt no euphoria, but a cold, heavy sense of finality. The FOD aid was gone. The wedding was canceled. The career was crippled. The inheritance was lost. The world had delivered a severe, comprehensive punishment, and I had merely been the messenger. I had faced my ghost, the fear of public shame, and realized that true control came, not from maintaining a perfect illusion, but from the brutal honesty of facing reality and acting with integrity. The consequences, having hit her career and her financial future, forced Vivian into one final, desperate move. She returned to the only leverage she felt she had left: emotional blackmail. Last Tuesday, she showed up at my apartment again. This time, the new locks held firm. The heavy, metallic thud of the door being tested was a deeply satisfying sound. I was already home from work. I did not open the door. I did not even move toward it. I was beyond arguing, beyond needing to enforce a boundary through speech. The locks spoke for me. My neighbor, bless her heart, was on the case. She texted me updates in real time. She's crying. She's on the phone yelling at someone. She's been sitting on your stoop for about 45 minutes. Looks like she's writing something. Vivian sat outside my door for 2 hours. It was a dramatic siege, a theatrical performance intended for me to hear, or, failing that, for the neighbors to witness. She wanted to force me to face her, to break my control through sheer public discomfort. But I simply put on my noise, canceling headphones, and waited for the show to end. When I finally checked my front door, there was a 4-page letter slid underneath the weather stripping. I picked it up, feeling a familiar dread. It was long, written quickly in frantic script, detailing a journey through denial, self-pity, and manipulation. I skimmed it, noting the structure of her final plea. Page 1 was about how much she still loved me, how we were meant to be, and how this was all a terrible misunderstanding. Page 2 doubled down on blaming me for overreacting and blaming the club for posting the video. Page 3 detailed how everyone had abandoned her, her grandmother, her family, and now her job was suffering, and it simply wasn't fair. Page 4, however, was the dangerous one. It ended with the classic, chilling line of emotional leverage. It stated that if I didn't take her back, she would have nothing left and couldn't be responsible for what happens. That line did not make me feel guilty. It made me deeply uncomfortable and angry. It was a vile attempt to make me fear being blamed for a tragedy, essentially holding her own being hostage to my actions. It was the ultimate attack on my oldest ghost. The fear of being held accountable for someone else's chaos and misery. I immediately called her mother, bypassing Vivian entirely. I was not calling to argue, only to delegate responsibility. Your daughter left a 4-page letter under my door, I said, my voice carefully low and steady. It contains language that sounds like she might hurt herself. I'm telling you this so you can check on her. I paused, delivering my final statement to that family. This is the last contact I'm having with your family. Do not call me again. Do not text me. I am done. Her mother did not express concern for her daughter. She expressed rage directed at me. If she does anything, it's your fault, Isaac! You did this to her. The utter lack of humanity, the immediate reflex to transfer blame, was shocking but predictable. I hung up the phone and blocked her number, then saved a digital copy of the 4-page letter and documented the time and content of the phone call. I was taking precautions, securing the evidence, making sure my name could not be dragged into the final, desperate act of her drama. The cousin, Sarah, reached out to me the next day. I asked her, flatly, about the situation. Sarah sighed over the text. She's fine, Isaac. She's just being dramatic for attention. She pulls the I'll hurt myself card to manipulate situations all the time. The family is handling it, but honestly, everyone is exhausted by her behavior. That confirmation, that this was merely a tired pattern of abuse, freed me completely. I felt the immense wave of guilt I had carried for a moment drain away, replaced by pure, clean relief. I realized then that I had successfully navigated the greatest test of my integrity. I hadn't succumbed to the pressure of pity or the fear of blame. I hadn't caved to the final manipulation. I had done the right, responsible thing by informing her family, and then I had protected myself. The ghost is exorcised. I had chosen self-respect over being tethered to her chaos. So, where did that leave me? Single again at 29. 3 weeks. I was supposed to be walking down the aisle. The smoke had cleared, and all that was left was the work of reconstruction. The practical aspects were the easiest to handle. I got about $4,200 back from the ring resale. It was less than I hoped, but enough to fully cover the various non-refundable deposits I had paid personally. A clean break financially. The apartment was entirely mine again. I spent a long, satisfying weekend doing a deep clean, purging every last artifact of our shared life, and rearranging the furniture. It was a conscious effort to make it feel like my space again, not our space. The air felt lighter, less cluttered by the weight of compromise and performance. The harder work was internal. I started seeing a therapist last week. It was surprisingly helpful. An objective third party to help me sort through the debris of my past assumptions. She pointed out something I hadn't fully processed. My action, forwarding the video, wasn't revenge. It was an act of integrity. I made a decisive choice in the moment based on instinct, showing the truth to the person who deserved to know before a massive financial and emotional investment was made. I didn't scheme or plan retaliation. I simply reported the facts to the ultimate stakeholder and let the chips fall where they may. That, she insisted, was honest. That validation was critical. It shattered the old lie that I had to maintain absolute control to be safe. I learned the truth. Integrity is the only true control you possess. Grandmother Eleanor sent me a card in the mail yesterday. A thick, high-quality, actual card with a handwritten note. She thanked me for having more integrity than most men twice my age and said she would pray for me. Coming from her, that meant something profound. It was external proof that my decisive action was not vindictive, but fundamentally moral. Do I feel bad about how things went down? Sometimes, yes. Late at night mostly. 4 years is a long time, and there were genuine good moments. I loved the person I thought she was. I grieve the loss of the future I believed we were building. But I don't regret what I did. She showed me exactly who she is when she thought no one was watching. She never apologized. Not once, in all those calls, texts, and the 4-page letter. She blamed me, blamed the club, blamed her friends, blamed the internet. She never once said, "I made a mistake and I'm sorry." That single, missing phrase tells me everything I need to know about the bullet I dodged. I am not dating. I am not looking to. My therapist. I need time to process the end of a long relationship, and she is absolutely right. I am focusing on work, reconnecting with friends, and figuring out who Isaac is outside of the structure of a relationship I thought would last forever. It is weird. 3 weeks ago, I was meticulously planning a wedding, checking on floral arrangements and seating charts. Now, I am planning how to be single and starting over at 29. Life is funny that way, full of swift, brutal pivots. But I would rather face the awkwardness of starting over than spend my life with someone who thinks she can treat me with contempt and blame everyone else for the consequences. The nightclub video, by the way, is still up. I checked once. It has about 400,000 views now. Some consequences are permanent, broadcast to the world forever. And that, I know, is not my fault. That's just the unfiltered reality of the internet. Time to move forward. Peace.